What's up, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Fitness Oracle. This is a long form episode. So, today's episode, we sat down with Rich Cadden from York, the UK. I actually messed that one up a little bit, so I apologize to my new friend, Rich. Um, he is a two-time world champion in Muay Thai, back out in Thailand. Now he has a gym in the UK called the Chok D Training Academy, where he's a performance coach and trains Muay Thai fighters and all that. He also is the CEO for Star Performance Mind Coaching. And we go into a lot into this episode. We go into the in you know we talk about Muay Thai. We talk about uh, mindset that comes with fighters, and we kind of like integrate it in with like everyday workers and everything, because it really does have same kind of effect. We go really deep into his training in Thailand. um, we kind of touch up on a very interesting topic that happened back in November. I'm not going to go into too much of it. I want you guys to listen to the podcast, because I think it's a really good podcast. And he's a really interesting guy, and he's got a lot of great knowledge that can come out of this to help whoever might be watching. So I really hope you guys take a lot of great benefits from his knowledge. Um, all of his all of his stuff is going to be with the show notes below. So feel free to go check him out. If you are in the York region in the UK, please do yourself a favor and check out this great Muay Thai instructor who really goes out of his way to make sure that his students are, you know, in the proper mindset to be able to deal with everything that comes with professional fighting. Anyways, enough of that. I really hope you guys enjoy the show. And if you like, please subscribe. Give me a like or subscribe. Or even better, if you guys do know of anybody suffering from mental health issues, please share this with them. Welcome to the Fitness Oracle, where we have real conversations with real people just like you, with real stories just like yours, and this is one of their stories. I am your host, John Katsavos. My guest today is Rich Cadden from Chuk D Academy. He is a former two-time world champion in Muay Thai kickboxing. He's the commissioner at the Worldwide MMA Commission. He manages He's the managing director and CEO at Star Performance Mind Coaching. He's a performance coach, and he's the owner of Chuk D Academy, and he is a husband and a proud father. Rich, welcome to the show.
Hello, sir. No, it's great. It's great to be welcomed on and invited on. I can't wait to get stuck into some questions.
Awesome. So, how is Chuk D coming along with the reopening?
Well, yeah. I mean, everyone's starting to come back now, and we're starting to get into the flow of all the classes, and you're seeing a little bit of apprehension and people kind of breaking out of that fear narrative. But yeah, everything's starting to pick up momentum, and we're starting to fight our way back.
Awesome. That's really great. That's really great to hear. um, Especially with all the uncertainty that we've been through for the past year. So how is Ireland handling with everything? Are you guys opening up again?
I'm in the UK. I'm in Yorkshire, in England.
So sorry about that.
um, and yeah, we keep getting certain threats through mainstream media saying about all these different variants and almost bringing in a certain level of uncertainty. But yeah, I mean, there's if you're willing to be manipulated by that fear, then it sometimes it shakes people. But after our first lockdown, what I found was that my own insecurity was then being reflected by my students, by the clients coming into the gym. And so I was like, right, okay, it was a rough night, the very first night that we started back. And I recognized how this internal self-talk within myself was being reflected by other people. And then we're all at that kind of point of almost uncertainty and a lack of confidence. So as the coach, as the leader, that doesn't make me immune to all these things that are these fear narratives that are being pushed. And I had to have a word with myself. I had to sort my own head out. And yeah, now that we've changed that around, and people are kind of more relaxed about coming into the gym, and they've got confidence and belief in our systems and protocols. Yeah, we're cooking on gas now.
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. Um, wish we had the stuff to do, that here, because I miss my martial arts too.
Yeah. I mean, it has been tough. Is it not to say that I didn't go through some dark times myself. I mean, I had a 3-year rental agreement hanging over my head. We were talking in the region of like £80,000 that I was liable for. That if my gym closed down, the landlord could still come after me for £80,000. It was yeah, it was a bit twitchy, a bit nervous.
Wow.
But we was able to turn it around, and we adapted the business. My wife, she works with us at the gym. She took a really strong lead on that, and yeah, she's to be honest, now she's recognized the benefits of like online coaching, and she's reaching hundreds of women now through this online medium, because they don't have to come to the gym, and it fits in with the like mum's busy lifestyles.
Well, that's amazing. That's really
So
amazing.
yeah, we've been able to drag some positivity out of these restrictions.
Great. That's always a plus when you can pull something negative out of, well, when you can pull something positive out of a negative situation.
Certainly.
Um, I've never competed in martial arts, but I've been in martial arts in and out since I was 8 years old. It's almost 34 years now. Don't do the math.
I was going to say 24.
But what was the biggest struggle that you've had on your journey up until the point where you got to your first world title? Because that's a huge accomplishment for any martial artist, like getting that
Oh,
first world title.
yeah. I mean, like I say, I started with a few different martial arts. So I started off in judo. Had a play with kickboxing and Aikido jiu-jitsu and a couple of others, before I found Muay Thai, and I essentially found Muay Thai pretty late. I started Muay Thai when I was 18, and a lot of people were saying, "Oh well, Thai boxers, they live a hard lifestyle, and you're pretty much retired by the time you're 26, 27, 28." So it's only a short career. And so I think the martial arts side of things was one angle, but then also the toughness that I had from my rugby career kind of stood me in good stead of being willing to take a few hits along the way, and not only the physical toughness, but also the determination that's required as well. I think that's probably one of the biggest lessons that I had to go with along the way. Funnily enough, I was just talking to Liam Harrison this afternoon. He's one of my stablemates, and yeah, we was talking about one of our Thai coaches, and he was absolutely brutal with our level of competence when it came to Muay Thai, and he's got his own percentage scale of how good you are as a Thai boxer. Now, if you're winning, if you're winning like European, like national European world titles and things like that, you're thinking that you're getting kind of pretty much there. But even after winning my first world title, I went back. I was talking to my Thai coach Roger Sack, and he was like, "Yeah, okay, first world title, you're 50%. You're 50% of it on your journey." It was like, wow, okay. So all this, which you think is like a peak, is then saying that you're only halfway there. So it's like, well, you're in it for the long haul now. This is where you have to keep rising to the occasion every time, and no matter how much you put in, that's merely the qualification to then compete at that next level. So you've maybe heard terminology and people saying that there's levels to this. There's levels to this business. Well, this is what we're talking about when we get into levels. In order to qualify to that next level of competition, that's the level of commitment that you have to put in, and that's only the entry level at that next height, that next stage. So yeah, just finding that mental resiliency and toughness to roll with that is a massive thing, and I think that mental toughness has to be the has to be one of the biggest lessons.
I think that's so true in so many different ways, because I'm like that. Like I'm always looking at the next peak. But do you think that it's important that once you reach that peak and you're looking at the next mountain ahead, it's important to start celebrating? Like when you like, what was the feeling that that feeling that you had when you won that first title?
Yeah, I mean, it was funny because I'd been out in Thailand for around a month at that point. I was living in the gym. I was training 6-7 hours a day, so I'd do like 3 hours on a morning and then 3-4 hours on a night. And I was one of the only Westerners there at this time, and there was one Australian guy that they used to come in and train out every now and again. I'd maybe see him maybe once, twice a week, but that was my only contact with Westerners, with English speaking people, and that in itself made me very almost introvert and very kind of self-reflective. But the beauty of fighting for this world title, fighting at this elite level, is that the fight was streamed on Thai Global Network. It's an international TV channel. It was beamed to 50 odd countries around the world, and unfortunately, my friends back in the UK had the Thai satellite TV station, and they were able to tune into it. One of the as I was getting the belt put around my waist, I remember kind of clenching my fist and closing my eyes, and like, I can't believe I'm at this point. And my one of my friends, he sent me a text afterwards. He says, "I saw you mouthing the words. I can't flipping believe it." And I kept that on my phone for about 10 years. It was one of those kind of fantastic moments that couldn't have been captured in any other way. Because, like I say, I hadn't spoken to any of my friends for around probably 6-8 weeks at that point. And yeah, just to get that text message and see it on like international TV, where it was fantastic.
That's great. And then the reality came in saying, the next peak is right there.
Yeah,
At
yeah.
what point in that journey between you realizing that there's a higher peak to from you celebrating, like how long did you take to celebrate that one victory?
Well, in Thailand, the Thai boxing is it's a business. In the UK, within the camaraderie within the gym, our coach Richard Smith always used to say, you get the 24-hour rule. And within that 24 hours, yeah, if you win, you're fantastic. We'll blow sunshine up your ass for 24 hours, and fantastic, well done. Now it's time to move on. But in Thailand, because it's a business, you get about an hour. You get about an hour of grace. You get about an hour of compliments and congratulations and pats on the back. And then you wake up the next day and it's back to business. So yeah, I mean, it's you don't get much time to celebrate because there's such a fast turnover, a really fast turnaround, and the association wanted me to defend the world title every 3 months. Because I was unable to, I was able to do that for the first defense, but then I wasn't able to defend it after that. So I ended up getting stripped of that first world title, and then I had to win it back again. Like for me, that's one of my things. I like to do things in twos, just to prove that the first time wasn't a fluke. So yeah, it's a high pace, and you don't get much time to rest on your laurels.
That's cool. That's cool. So what eventually got you into Muay Thai?
Yeah, like I say, I was into I was already involved with martial arts from a young age. I did judo from when I was about 7 or 8 years old. I played rugby, so I was always kind of a rough and tumble kid. And yeah, it was just that kind of constant pursuit of better. I was always looking for that, looking for that next challenge. And then when I left judo and my rugby contract got cancelled, I was like, well, what's my next stage? Where is my efforts going to be best rewarded? And this is when I started looking around, and it was around this time that so that'll have been probably around 96, 97. And around this time, like, UFC was just kind of kicking off, and I picked up a video in one of the local stores, and it was the Valetudo Championships. And watching these Valetudo fights on VHS, it was a light bulb moment that there's like these other avenues, and they started talking about Muay Thai on there. A lot of the Brazilian guys on the Vale Tudo World Championships were coming from a Muay Thai background, and I was like, okay. So I started doing a bit of digging about Muay Thai, and the only thing that was in my local city at that point was kickboxing, and that was my only avenue. So I started off kickboxing. I enjoyed that. I continued to kind of push and look around for these Muay Thai clubs, and then I ended up connecting with a guy who ran one class a week at the sports hall down in the centre of town. And I said, well, this is what I'm looking for. How can I get to a level where I can compete in this? I need to be training more. He took me through my first couple of like amateur fights, and then says, well, because you're pushing so hard, I'm going to have to take you over to Bad Company gym over in Leeds. And then that's when I started training. And this was my constant back and forth up and down the motorway. It was around about a 45-minute journey down to the next town to get this Muay Thai training, and everything kind of grew from there.
Nice.
So
sorry, go ahead.
So yeah, that's basically how I really started. Well, I was introduced to it in my hometown, but my Thai professional Thai boxing career kicked off when I started at Bad Company.
Cool. I got into Muay Thai because I saw a movie. I thought it was cool, and I'm like, all right, time to check this out a little bit. Spent 6 months in it, and they brought out the baseball bat, and they're like, time to work on your shins. I'm like, no, it's not. Not time to work on my shins. Bye bye.
Yeah, I mean, like for me, I was very quickly going out to Thailand, and I was getting involved in the training over there, and at no point did anyone say about conditioning your shins and things like that. And so I started doing a bit of digging about this idea about using bats and using like rolling pins on your shins to deaden them off and things. And all it was down to was a misunderstanding of what was actually happening. So that origin started off because somebody saw the guys at the local massage place using like wooden sticks on the front of the just off center of the shin, so that it's not on the bone, it's on that muscle that runs up and down the front of your shin. So if you just put your hands on the front of your shin and flex your foot up and down, you can feel that muscle working. That's the muscle that they were actually massaging, and they were trying to massage out any knots or any tightness there that you get through shin splints and things like that when you're doing lots of running and things. It's that muscle that gets worked. So because of this average, like normal conditioning, and also the self-care and repair of the body, people thought that was deadening the shins, when in actual fact it's just massage, and it's just saving the thumbs, just so that you don't have to exert so much force with the points of your thumbs, and your thumbs don't get tired. So it always makes me laugh when people say about deadening the shins off and like battering their shins up and down with bottles and sticks and stuff like that. It's like, we need a little bit more education around this.
And thank you for that, because I did not know that. And I know, like, I've in my personal training practice, I specialize in muscle in rehab, post rehab. And I know the muscle that you're talking about, it's called the anterior tibialis. And yes, it is the number one cause of shin splints if it's not treated properly. And I did not know that. So
yeah,
thank you
so
for
yeah,
that.
this is what we're talking about. This is infotainment.
Yeah. This is awesome. I love it. You lived in Thailand for a little bit. Um,
Yes, I did. Yeah.
I've visited Thailand and I noticed, I think it was somewhere on your Facebook feed where I saw you saying that you were like the only Westerner that didn't really get taken by Bangkok, quote unquote. And it's
Yeah, yeah,
easy. I'm telling you, it's easy to be taken by Bangkok.
yeah. Like it was a big joke when we had the when that became a thing on the Hangover, like Bangkok's got him now, and things like that. It was hilarious. Um, but yeah, I only found that out when I started sending my students out to Thailand, because I've still got really close links with Jitty Gym, and that's the gym that I always go and train at. Um, still close friends with Jitty and all the guys over there. Um, but when I sent one of my guys out to train, who was by himself, and he was expecting this kind of same level of kind of training dedication. I said that it was game to fight and everything, and so he was spending more time around the gym, and this is when he started to get into more conversation with Jitty, and obviously my training ethics kind of came up, and this is when the message went out there that yeah, like even some of the kind of elite guys get sucked into the party lifestyle, but like I suppose this is where my geeky side comes in, and I'm really disciplined towards my training.
That's it takes a lot, I'll tell you. Like Koh San Road is easy. Like it's
Oh
easy to
yeah.
get consumed by Koh San Road.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, well, so my boys were dragging me out down Sukhumvit and down Soi 4 and Soi 7 and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a lot of party joints down there around Cowboy and stuff. Like, yeah, let's just kind of leave that. Let's push that to one side. It's good to know that it's there, but I'm here for a purpose. I'm here to train, and so I was able to kind of put that barrier in place.
What was training like in Bangkok, like in Thailand? Because I've heard from other people that it's very intense and there isn't much time to be doing some stuff like partying, for example.
Yeah, I mean, um, the I think there's some. It depends on how hard you want to go. Yeah, it depends on how hard you want to train. Um, and I think it's one of those. Well, if you want to go for like a training holiday, then you can you can drop into training sessions, and you can do the like Bangkok holiday thing where you may not get up for the morning training or do the morning runs, and you can kind of section off enough of your day to have like a lazy morning and go to the big buffet breakfast at the hotel and stuff like that. Do a 2 hour training session, and then go out and enjoy a night around the town, and you can have a mutually beneficial holiday with a partner who doesn't train. However, if you're going there to train professionally, seriously, um, I'd always recommend like staying at a gym. You go and live in the gym, and then you live that like Thai boxer lifestyle. So what this means is that you don't get any kind of creature comforts. You don't get air conditioning. Um, like basically my room was a bed, a fan, and I had a little kind of nightstand where I could like stack my clothes up and that kind of thing, and that was it. So it's a very kind of sparse lifestyle. Um, every morning you'd be getting up around 6:30. So you get up, put on your running gear, And our average run was like 3 kilometers down to Chat Park. There's a 3 kilometer track around Chat Park, and then a 3 kilometer run back. So you could be doing 15, 18, 20k every morning. Now this isn't like high intensity running. You're probably running maybe like 9-minute miles. So it's not a really high pace. It's just low level, low intensity, but building up duration, building up that gas tank. And what this does, it builds up your like VO2 max. You build up your like aerobic thresholds, and you just have to embrace the grind and just keep putting one foot in front of the other. By the time you're getting back to the gym, it's around kind of 8:30, maybe 8:45 in the morning. And then you'd go, and you wouldn't do any pads. You'd maybe do a bit of touch sparring or a bit of bag work. You'd do probably 300, 400, 500 sit-ups, chin-ups, maybe a bit of bag work, stretch off, and you'd be finishing off training around like 9:30ish. So you've done like 3 hours, around 3 hours training at that point. You go and have a shower, get changed, go downstairs, and I'd have breakfast at the gym. They always had fantastic breakfast at the gym where we stayed. They had a living cook and everything, and they were like the meals were amazing. Then on average, you'd have from probably 11 o'clock in the morning to like 3 in the afternoon as your kind of personal time. But if you're training hard on a morning, then you spend that like middle of the afternoon, like a good 2-3 hours having a sleep in the afternoon as well. This kind of kicks in with and aligns with your circadian rhythm. So with your like afternoon slump, you embrace the slump, and that's how you maximize your recovery. So therefore you can then go hard again when it gets to 3 o'clock, and then you're back out and you're training like 3 through till 6:30, sometimes 7 p.m. And that's a mixture of 30-40 minutes skipping with a heavy rope before your pad work. Then there'd be sparring and clinch work and bag work, and then some like low level cardio stuff, doing like push kicks up against the wall. There'd be some like maybe some one-on-one time with one of the trainers, and they'd have a look at your style and make some small corrections. And then you get to like 6:30, 7 o'clock, go and have a shower, get changed, come downstairs, have your evening meal, and then you'd be in bed for probably 8:30, 9 o'clock in the evening. So you was getting around 9 hours sleep every night, and you needed it. You really needed that sleep. And so you'd have like 9 hours sleep in the evening, and then you maybe get like 2 hours sleep in the middle of the day. And this is when you're pushing really hard, when you're training really hard. But like I say, it doesn't have to be as intensive as that. It's a sliding scale of how much you want to commit, and be careful what you wish for, because if you say that you want to train hard, then you'll be pushed hard.
No, absolutely. And it's interesting that you actually said that kind of training goes in line with the circadian rhythm, because it really does. Like, you have to do the most amount of work in the morning, because that's when our cortisol levels are at its peak. So I really like the way that how they actually put the majority of the training in the morning, with that lull in the afternoon and light training at night, because that's exactly what happens with cortisol levels. I
Right.
did something on
Yeah,
yesterday.
yeah. Again, so sometimes this changes, and what some people perceive to be low level and what other people perceive to be low level are different things. So yeah, be careful with your expectations there.
Yes, I am. Does this tie in with everything that you do, especially with the sports performance stuff?
Yeah, because like we were saying, one of the reasons why I kind of fell out of love with rugby was that when I went from playing professional rugby and playing professional sport, having that kind of peek behind the curtain towards elite level sport and professional level sport, with a massive amount of sports science and and protocol behind it. I was able to apply that directly to myself and reap the benefits of that. And this is where my attitude towards holistic coaching has kind of come in. So not only is it like the communicate the technique side of things, but there's the strength and conditioning, there's the nutrition, there's the rest and recovery, and it's been able to balance all of those from a with an organized mindset, and then also being aware of your internal dialogue where when you're going through these challenges. And like I said, this is where I kind of reap the benefits of it, of the professional coaching from rugby, being able to apply that directly to myself, when I moved over into and applied it in Thai boxing.
Mhm. Because this is like a extraordinarily complex and massive subject when it comes to like peak physical performance. Like, what area do you specialize in this?
So I would I would say that my speciality would be on the purely technical side of things of Muay Thai, and then the mindset side of things. So the internal dialogue, the kind of reframing of ideas and challenging beliefs around what you think is the correct mode of action, um, and then leaning on the coaching style as well. So within my coaching, I have a trinity. So my trinity of beliefs around coaching is that it's all about relationships. So around the relationship, first of all, me and the client, me and the fighter have to be on good terms. We have to be in it. We have to have the mutual respect and have a freedom of conversation there, and there's a balance within that. Secondly, is about the client or fighter putting in 100%, so they're being judged on effort and rather than results. So long as we've got clear communication and we're both putting in 100%, then the results is the third line, in the fact that everyone wants to win. But notice that comes third down the line. The results is kind of is the third level, because the thing is that me and the fighter can be good working together. We can put in 100% together, and people can put in kind of peak performances. But then sometimes that's fighting. Sometimes the cookie doesn't crumble our way, and there has to be an element of, we don't put all our eggs in one basket. If we lose, then everything's shot. No, there has to be a level of acceptance that there's wiggle room. There's things that are within our control and things that aren't within our control. And sometimes judges have their own issues as well, and this opens up a whole new avenue of debate when you start bringing in all these kind of objective and subjective matters when it comes to the scoring criteria and how well educated the judges are, whether they're looking for the performance of one of the people and favorites being picked out in promotions and things like that. Sometimes, like I say, sometimes the game doesn't go your way, and there has to be a mental resiliency to deal with that.
Interesting that you would say that, because it can, because something like this can actually fall directly in place with somebody working in an office where, you and your supervisor may have a great idea, but then you take it to your manager and then all of a sudden he's like, no, I don't like it because of whatever. Now
Yeah,
this is all based off of like having a proper mindset on the individual as a supervisor or a coach to be able to say, you know what, okay, how we didn't get it, whatever. How would you deal with a fighter um who put in the time, put in the effort, you knew he or she was going to win, but the refs just didn't give them the match?
I mean, it's always tough. It's always tough because, like I say, we're even with everything aligned, everyone still wants to win. And after the match, you turn around and you see people that that didn't buy a ticket or whatever, and they'll say, "Oh, how did the fight go?" You said like, "Oh yeah, I did really well, but I lost." They only hear that you lost. They don't care about the effort. They don't care about um, the relationship. They don't care about all that ancillary stuff. Um, so yeah, like I say, it's tough. But for the fighter, there has to be an element of ownership, and this is one of the things that I've taken on board from Jocko Willing, is this kind of extreme ownership concept. So and even when things don't go to plan, even when things don't go your way, there has to be a certain level of ownership in order to kind of get past that. So if there may be things that you're just not aware of, there may be angles towards the promotion. So prime example is that at the moment I've got a fighter that's getting ready to fight on a certain promotion, and the promoter chooses who he wants to nurture as a star, and then he only promotes one person out of the matchup. Therefore, that's already influenced in the judges to say this is the guy to watch out for. The other person is just like a co-star. They're not the lead star. So there's subtle influence that's involved in the promotion idea, and we have to understand that there's a certain mentality and influence that's involved around that. So that's the roles and responsibilities of the promoter. So when we can get justification for maybe a skewed result, you say, right, okay, well, if this is what we're up against, then we're not going to have to leave it to the judges. Even though you may know that you've done really well and you've won the match and you've obligated your roles and responsibilities as a fighter, you've checked all the boxes on the specification of the rules of how the fight is going to be judged. You leave it to the judges. This is where the twist of ideas can then come into play. So you're going to say, well, I don't trust the level of judging that's been applied, so I can't leave it to the judges. So even if you know that you're winning, you're going to have to make it super obvious. You're going to have to find many different angles in order to sway that judge and that influence. If this is happening in the office, managing down is easy because you can be authoritarian and you can tell people what to do. Managing up is difficult because you don't want to offend the ego. You're going to have to be very delicate with how you challenge. And when you're challenging a mindset, say, well, I think there's alternative ways that we could go about this. Well, no, we're doing it this way. Well, if we go about it and do it this way, then I can see potential problems along the way, and you can start flagging up areas of conflict. This is, like I say, at the moment I'm just kind of spitballing ideas.
So great.
So there's certain challenges that you're going to have to put in, but then being able to do that in a linguistically soft way. So yeah, understand the angle, take the facts. Don't be too blunt with it. Don't just plow in with a big right hand and try and enforce your way. Just think about questioning. So questioning is powerful because it exposes belief. So when you ask a question, there's a certain rationale and a certain criteria, and the boss might tell you that there's something that you weren't aware of that's influenced his decision. So taking it back to the promoter, well, the promoter is choosing to promote this one guy because he sells 10 times the tickets, and the promoters in the world of making money. So if this guy is selling more tickets than the other guy, then of course he's going to try and promote and make him his little superstar. That's just the way it goes.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there's areas of influence, and it's not always down to the strict scoring criteria of the sport. There's sometimes a financial influence as well.
Absolutely. You also do stuff with people's nutrition, which I find really, really great, because it's hard to find people that are trying to help everybody in all aspects of health. So you know, probably as well as I do, everybody struggles with food. Everybody struggles with it. How do you have this one concept, food on the plate? What do you mean by that?
Okay, so when we're talking about food on plate solutions, it's basically, as a nutritionist, as someone that's into diet, what we need to know is, right, okay, let's look at your height, look at your size, look at your age, look at your metabolic rate. How many calories do you need on a daily basis? We can get involved with the numbers, with activity levels, and applying that to your metabolic rate. So then we get a total calorie intake, and then say, right, okay, well, if I want to lose a little bit of weight, let's cut it down by this much. And following the science, following the numbers, in theory, you should lose weight, like taking the figures. You could average it on like a for the sake of argument, we'll talk it £1 a week. Okay. Well, that's very academic. It's very number heavy. And a lot of people aren't into science. A lot of people don't correlate the numbers with the food that's actually on the plate. And there's almost a disconnect there. So when you start talking, right, okay, well, I need to have, I don't know, like 40 grams of protein in this meal, and with balance with the carbs and the fats that are involved. Right, okay. Well, what do those numbers look like when it's actually on my plate? So when we're getting this idea of food on plate solutions, you can say, well, there's no, well, let's make it really simple and say, like, there's no pure protein sources. So even within a portion of meat, which is protein heavy and protein dense, there's still elements of carbohydrate and still elements of fats within that portion of meat. Within a portion of pasta or a portion of rice, yes, that's carb heavy, but there's still small elements of protein and small elements of fat. And so when you start playing with these numbers, it's like it can be a bit of a disconnect, and it becomes too much like calculation, too much balancing. Essentially, people want simple answers. Like, I don't want to know what the numbers are. Just tell me what to eat. What has to go on my plate? You tell me what to put on my plate. I'll put that on my plate, and then the science should support itself. So when we're talking about food on plate, it's trying to almost detach the science from it, detach the numbers from it. So then the client doesn't really have to think about the numbers. They just need to go, right, I need 20 grams of rice with this meal. And then also have a trust in your judgment call over saying, well, have I put exactly 20 grams on there, or have I put 22 on and gone, well, I'm not going to care too much about that. It's the level of detail that you apply to the food on plate solutions, which therefore gets the results. And this is what we're trying to essentially get to, is make the answers simple. So therefore, when there's less thinking, there's just adherence to the protocol that's been established.
I love it. Simplicity at its finest. And that's what I picked up. I'm like, that's beautiful. That's amazing. That's great. We're going to be switching gears a little bit. We're going to be talking about the ACA and the UFC commissioning. I don't know if too many people out there know what happened. I think it was back in November with ACA 100 with Nurmatov's passing because of the stroke, I think. Do you think that this put a dark cloud on the sport?
Obviously a very terrible time, and yeah, it's tough to talk about. I mean, it was at the ACA 100. It was in Grozny. It was in Chechnya. The president was there. It was a high level event, and yeah, it's always sad with any level of passing, but then also the adherence to following the like weight loss protocols, weight cutting protocols. I don't know. I don't want to get involved with the I don't know the full modalities of what was kind of established in the reports afterwards. But whenever there's a passing, it's always terrible.
Yeah. It always every time I hear something like this coming out of the fighting world, for some reason there's a whole bunch of people on one side saying, "Oh, they should ban this, they should ban that." It's like, well, in the past 10 years, there has been one hockey player that passes from a heart condition coming off the ice, sitting on the bench. And we don't hear about anything like that in mainstream media. But something like this happens in the fighting world. It's like everybody's coming down on it, and nobody really understands the importance of martial arts in men's mental health. It's critical for us to have this kind of expression of self. Like, I've
Yeah,
been in martial arts my entire life since I was 8 years old. If I didn't have martial arts, I would not be sitting here talking to you right now.
yeah,
That's and this is one incident in thousands of fights that are happening around the world on a monthly basis. And it's like when they put this spotlight on it, it's like, yes, as you said, it is a sad, tragic event that we lost a human being. But to put the spotlight on an event that did this is wrong. In my eyes, it's wrong.
yeah. It's not the sport. It's people. And people are always going to try and win, and they're going to try and find ways of um, looking for an advantage, and this may be through weight cutting protocols and things like that. But then at the end of the day, this isn't tiddlywinks. This isn't checkers. We're This is full contact competition. This is full contact fighting, and the risk is part of the allure. Um, I mean, I I feel difficult. I feel awkward, kind of talking around it, because there's elements of kind of toxic masculinity and bringing bravado in and stuff like that. And like, to coin a term from Point Break, he said it's not tragic to die doing what you love. Well, there's elements of that, but it's still tragic. Um, and yeah, I mean, there's some, even in modern day combat sports, we've still got warriors out there, people that are willing to put everything on the line, and they're willing to take risks. And I haven't seen anyone achieve anything to levels of mediocrity. So I always say to keep pushing that window, and the science has to adapt and support us in this pursuit. Only last week I was talking to a kickboxing promoter, kickboxing official, who was talking around comotiocordosis, so the like sudden death syndrome, and saying that this happens with impacts to the chest, and saying that this is just as dangerous as concussions. Well, he was banging this drum about sudden death syndrome because he's been in it, and as soon as I found that out, I was like, okay, I understand it. It must be it's tragic that you've had to go through that. My deepest sympathies, but when you look at the facts and figures of the situation, I hadn't heard of this in 35 years of martial arts. He told me about it, but it was never publicized. And it's, like I say, it's tragic. But let's not have knee-jerk reactions to freak accidents. Let's look after people that have on a risk assessment form, when you've got the potential damage over the regularity. There's more regularity of a concussion and head injury. Yes, it's not getting to the point of fatal, but it's still causing brain damage and degenerative brain disease and things like that. Now, the studies are showing that there's there's a downward trend because of the level of science that's now being applied into combat sports. There's closer protocol over seeing that there are these dangers, and it's only through, like, over the past week, this is something that I've been touching on to introduce with some of my fighters, in that I'm doing concussion tests. So if I have a baseline of information, to assess concussion damage, so like these concussion tests are, how long can you stand with your eyes closed? How long can you stand on two legs without losing balance? How long can you stand on one leg without losing balance? How long can you stand on one leg on foam, on a foam floor? How long can you stand on two legs on a foam floor? Once you get this baseline level of data, that can then be used to measure if he gets concussed, or he suffers a head injury. Then we can keep monitoring that until he's hitting the same figures again. Therefore, the things that we're measuring are therefore protecting the fighter to then move forward in his pursuit to play combat sport. This is something that I wasn't introduced to. It was just a case of, right, okay, you've been concussed, 28 days off, and then you can get back into it. There was no monitoring over concussion injuries when I was competing, and this just shows the level of application to sports science that's now been introduced.
You kind of just answered my next question. Is, do you think that the science has improved from back, let's say, 20 years ago, 10 years
100%.
ago?
Well, no, like I said, one of the things that that triggered this introduction is the stuff that I've been doing with UFC Performance Institute. I've got one of their manuals. They've just released their volume 2 manual, which analyzes all the data of all the fights that have happened between 2017 and 2020. So you've got 3 years of UFC fight nights and the numbered UFC events. Within that, they've had sports analysts breaking it down into modalities of how many punches are being thrown per round, how many takedowns from clinch, how many takedowns from range, what are the chances of submission, and getting all this data together to then extrapolate that down the line of saying, well, these are the injuries that are generally caused through grappling. These are the injuries that are caused through striking. What's the likelihood of all those injuries that happen through striking? How many people end up with a broken nose, with a broken orbital, end up with I don't know, maybe broken jaw or broken rib or something. So at the moment, I'm around 70 pages into this 480-page manual, and I'm going through this manual to say, right, okay, this is how it's going to now direct my coaching for the guys that I'm coaching. Say, right, okay, well, the majority of the time, 60% of the time in UFC level MMA fights, 60% of the time is spent striking. Okay, so that's how we tailor our training. 60% of the time you're doing striking to then what are the applications of that? Is it striking from stood up? Is it striking from the floor? Is it striking a grounded opponent? Is it striking to then get into the wrestle? Is it striking to get into the clinch? Is it striking to then shoot? And the data then leads to coaching. And this is the beauty of having more and more data and more sports scientists involved in the sport, because then the sport's going to improve.
My question was going to be basically, so do you think that this kind of level of coaching with this amount of data could actually help limit the amount of injuries that these athletes are going to be exposed to?
Well, I think it is, because well, what we're now finding is that there's around 60 to 70% of the fights are now going to decision. Well, if they're going to decision, then the matches must be closer. Well, if the matches are closer, then the technique levels are equally matched. The desire is still 100%, but then this is where personal interpretation on that then comes in. So as we're getting more and more data around the physical side of things, this is when it's then going to come back to the mental aspects of how well they can hold their steed, their mental, how well they can hold their mental tenacity in the face of adversity.
So we're going to be switching gears a little bit, and we're going to be talking a little bit more about, like, your gym and everything. So what has been the biggest challenge in running a martial arts gym? Because that's something that's always appealed to me since I was a kid.
I would say it's the people skills. It's the personality. It's the interaction and creating closer connections with more and more people, and how different people may interpret instructions differently. So this is where, like, communication styles comes in, and we start creating communication loops and getting feedback from people. So it's not authoritarian, being told what they must do. Like, this is a concept, I want to have a little play with it, and this is what's kind of leading on to people taking ownership of their training. So yeah, like the technique stuff is the easy side. How people interpret the information and then feed it back, can they still keep that level of clarity when they get punched in the face? That can be a game changer. So it's like a lot of the time, like, the first time people get punched in the face, it's like everything goes out the window, and it's like and everything goes a bit crazy. So there has to be a level of, like, a sliding scale of aggression, and there has to be levels of trust with people. And as a coach, I look for functioning partnerships. I look for people that train well together. I don't look for the bully. I don't look for the big hard man. I don't look for the guy that can beat everybody up and he's head and shoulders athletically better than everybody that's there. everybody raises their game together. So when there's a bit of empathy or flexibility around the rules, so sometimes like when people are sparring, I'll go over to the more advanced guy and say, you need to work on your defense. So, and to the less advanced guy, I'll turn around and say, you need to build your confidence up in order to hit somebody. And when you're faced with an advanced guy, okay, you can hit him as hard as you want, and you see their eyes light up, and the more advanced guy goes, right, okay, well, I know I need to be switched on here, because it's going to be coming at some like unorthodox angles, and things are going to be like at a crazy tempo, and so can you keep your resiliency? Can you keep your calmness in the face of an aggressive attack, knowing that you're only allowed to defend? So and this is where we can start playing some games at the gym. So yeah, these are the challenges, and I pose these challenges within the gym to the guys, like when they're sparring, and like introduce an idea. Right, now it's up to, rather than just like get on with pad work, so can you introduce that idea and that concept into your pad work drills? And that's the genesis point of learning. Can you apply it into your game plan already?
It's interesting. You said a lot of interesting things right there, and I want to touch up on some of them. But in Sistema, like I practice Sistema, and one of the first things that we do to people is we just punch them as hard as we can, let them deal with, because it's like the first time that you really get punched hard, you really have to deal with a lot of emotions with yourself.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like a lot of people, they're not used to that kind of level of emotion. And it's like, you got to just
Yeah.
remind them, breathe, calm down, breathe. And when they calm down, you punch them hard again.
Well, that's one way, but from a knowing that you're running a martial arts gym and also a business, sometimes it's not a good business model.
No.
So I like from a I think from a coaching perspective, I sometimes come, depend on the individual. I sometimes come from a softer angle and say, right, okay, I'm going to touch you, literally touch your forehead with with my gloves. I won't even feel the foam compress on my glove, and I'm just going to touch to your forehead, and they still blink. That blink is a reflex that we need to break. So can you keep your eyes open even when someone's just touching your forehead? And you'd be surprised at how many people can't keep their eyes open. This is the blink reflex that then gets amplified later on when they start getting hit harder. So then as soon as someone starts to punch them, they close their eyes. Well, that has to start somewhere. There has to be a genesis point of an idea of where we can redirect that thought process. So we take that learning point and we say, right, okay, I don't want to do anything. I just want to take a punch to the forehead, just touch. Can you keep your eyes open? Yes. Okay. Now do it 2% harder, 2% harder, 2%, and then we gradually ramp up, rather than go at 100% and do it again, until they learn. So, like I said, different schools of thought, and yeah, interesting ideas.
It is. And honestly, there isn't a martial art out there that I don't respect. I respect them all. I think they're all great. They're all beneficial for everybody out there. Um, but like again, running a martial arts school, like I have been an instructor in Sistema, and I've had to deal with my fair share of the, big egotistical, testosterone monsters. How would you deal with something like when if somebody like that would walk into your gym?
Um, we've had a couple. Um, Sometimes they can be guided, sometimes they can be coached. Sometimes there's it's like with the jiu-jitsu guys. We have there's always the instructor that can kind of sit back, and then we have like mat enforcers, the people that are going to keep the troops in line. And they know their roles. And it just takes a little nod from the instructor to say, yeah, put it on him a bit, and then they're like, let him experience the pressure. And yeah, like I don't, I've I don't think I've ever had anyone kind of get to the point where things are just escalating beyond control. I think it's always been managed.
That is a sign of a good teacher and a very good school. Because in my experience, teachers in schools that can't manage that, they're not very good. But if a teacher in a school can actually manage, the big guys, the egotistical guys, that's a good sign. So
Thank you. Thank you.
I had to choke the guy out. So I had to choke one out. Like he put me up on his shoulders, and I just literally just wrapped around and just choked him. And he fell. He was like towering over me. Anyways.
Yeah.
So you obviously still keep ties with with the school out in Thailand.
Yeah.
And you obviously understand the whole concept of, no man is an island. Now,
Correct.
especially with the whole restrictions with travel, how have you been coping?
Um, for me, I've been through my own journey, and been through some dark places and stuff like that, and having my family around us, and my wife around us. Like my wife works at the gym as well. She she's she's fantastic. She like sometimes I'll get these like crazy ideas, and we'll bounce ideas back and forth, and she'll kind of rein me in, and say that's probably a bit too far. You don't need to be doing that, and it's it's a good leveler. And I think sometimes when you've been to some like elite levels, or you're a kind of free thinker, sometimes you need a certain level of grounding. um and yeah, like my family and my wife around me, that's what's kind of kept me grounded. um from a network perspective, um what I've recognized is that I've just kind of spawned um my own performance institute. So it's York Performance Institute, where I pull all these ideas together. It's stuff that I was always doing, but within the Performance Institute, what I recognize is that it's good to have a level of understanding about these different areas. But there's a lot of people out there, a lot of people within my network of friends that are absolute experts, and like PhD level instructors, that have that are fantastic with nutrition, fantastic on psychology and coaching and strength and conditioning. Um, and what I recognize is that, yeah, okay, I may be able to give people a GCSE level, like that's the like an educational level, like high school level instruction. But if people can abide by that base level of instruction, then I'll pass them on to these like university level instructors that are experts in their field. This is one of the things that I've kind of pulled together with the network within my Performance Institute. So when I pass people on to my nutritionist, he expects them to be at a level where they can monitor calories, they can have the meal discipline, they know portion control and that kind of thing. So he can get involved more on the like micronutrient side and timing of meals side, and things like that. And then, like I say, this is if you can abide by the calories, right? Okay, now move it on and let's take it to that next level of instruction. And this is what we've been talking about all the way through, is this like there's levels to this.
So this has all come out of COVID, obviously.
Yeah. So a lot of people putting their information online, and doing online coaching and things like that. It's meant that I've recognized my limitations, but also the depth of my network. I've got like a lot of the guys that I knew they were fit, I knew they were strong, I knew they were into lifting to a certain degree, but then all of a sudden they're putting more and more information out there, and like a couple of the guys, I didn't even know they were doctors. They were doctors of strength and conditioning. They had PhDs in strength and conditioning. And they were just that humble, or maybe not marketing themselves that well, that I didn't even know. And so it's one of those where like I didn't even know you was a doctor of strength and conditioning. I didn't even know you'd done a PhD in this stuff. I was like, yeah, I know you're good at it. I didn't know that depth of knowledge. Do you want to work together? Do you want to start building some networks? I can give people some like GPP stuff, some general physical preparedness. But then when we start getting to the more of the sport specific stuff, and your strength and conditioning routines require closer monitoring, that's when I'll pass you on, because I know my limitations. And like I say, it is this close network that we've now got, where we can open this up for people, and even if I start people off with a base knowledge, then there's a time and a place to pass them on and say, well done, you've graduated this level of instruction. Now go speak to this guy, and he's going to push you a little bit harder.
That's great. And how many of these programs do you have available for people?
So at the moment we've got the strength and conditioning program, we've got the nutrition program, and I run the mental performance coaching program.
Okay, cool. Where can people find more about you?
You can follow us on Instagram. You can follow us on Facebook. If you just look for Coach Cadden on Facebook, and Rich Cadden on Instagram.
Okay, and we will post all your links with the show notes, so everybody listening or watching can have easy access. All they have to do is just click copy and paste onto a browser, and they can get direct access to you.
Fantastic. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. Of course. Any final thoughts?
Just thank you very much for inviting me on. It's been an enlightening conversation. There's some great questions. Let's do it again sometime.
Absolutely. Thank you so much like I said, thank you so much for coming on. I always love it when I can get a martial artist and an instructor to come on my show, because it's such a deep conversation that we can have, because it's like we're not they're in martial arts instructors and martial artists, they're not just these, you know, like people think that's, you know, chiseled bodies and all they do is fight. No, it's we're a lot deeper, because and it's always I always wanted to express that to people, that there's deeper levels to martial artists. And yep, that's exactly what I mean. That is exactly what I mean. A 4-hour work week, the tools of the Titans, Wim Hof method. Like all we do is we dig deep inside ourselves to become better. And when I can bring martial artists on this show and show people that we are more than just, you know, chiseled bodies in a ring beating each other to a pulp. It's so much deeper. So for you to come on my show, I'm extremely grateful for you to be sharing your knowledge and everything that you do, your past experiences, where you're going with everything. I have no doubt that you're going to be reaching thousands of people, if not hundreds of thousands, potentially millions of people, and helping them. So I'm so grateful for you to come on and share your story with us.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Going through hard times is just a test. What you need to know is that when you get out of whatever you're going through, you will be stronger than ever before, and you don't need to go through it alone. Always know that you are not alone. Stay tuned for more real people with amazing stories that are just like yours. Until then, to everyone out there listening, I wish you a good morning, good afternoon, or a good night wherever you may be in this crazy world.